Welcome back to a live reading of The Effigy of Love, as written by Tony Sherblom and read by Juho Hankila. This is Chapter 14, The Wind Carries Your Embrace. With reddened eyes and heavy steps, Hendrik stole away into the night, with blatant disregard for any noise he made. He did not care if anyone saw him leave, for they would never see him again. Like a drunkard, struggling to keep on his feet, he dashed down the stony hallways, slipped under the sleet-covered rocks, and stumbled over the gnarly roots underneath the ochre path, all without a care in the world for the stains on his clothes or the lacerations on his skin. The grief and regret he felt churning inside of him made him numb to all physical pain, but the lack of sensations, or the utter disregard for them, did not come alone. As it spurred him toward his haven, an overwhelming fear rode alongside it, one that made him think he wouldn't be able to feel anything else ever again, save for the inferno that still crackled inside of him. The inherited flames, though subsided by the despair he felt, still ran hot in his veins, flaring every so often as he thought about Felth, whined embers, or his parents, the ones that had robbed the world of an angel. Being possessed with such grief and anger made time fly by, and before Hendrik realized it, he stumbled out of the fog in his head and into the embrace of the verdant clearing. Weary and bruised, both on the inside and outside, he collapsed next to his favorite lichen-covered rock by the pond. Having finally reached the safest place on earth, he could feel himself struggling to hold back the blackened emotions inside of him. Sobbing, nails tearing at the lichen, his whole body started convulsing as his heart burst open, and all of the endless grief and unspeakable pain spilled out into the night in the form of 100 curses. He let everything he had ever kept bottled up inside of him out in a desperate attempt to rid himself of all things grey, hoping to leave but an empty shell for her to paint. But the well of profanities was bottomless, and the night was still young. Seething with rage, almost to the point of frothing at the mouth like a rabid dog, he howled such evil thoughts into the night that the sky darkened further, and the silence around him wanted to choke him. Yet no matter how much he cried in dismay or cursed out in anger, the black rot inside of him never diminished, and no one came to his side. Alas, as time went on, trepidation started crippling him, making the fire within slowly die out, turning the howling into wailing. Can I not rid myself of these grey stains? Has it chased all my colours away? Am I to live in this oppressing, grey suffering alone forever? Was losing one light in my life not enough? Have I now lost two on the same day? Has life itself become my prison now, where the shackles are made of unbreakable misery? Enveloped in a shroud of impenetrable darkness, these questions ran rampant in his mind, heart, and soul. 100 times, and 100 times he was left without answers. The anger had transmuted into relentless anguish and doubt, and the fear of having lost everything, even her, wrung out the last of his tears. But as the old wisdom goes, the light always shines brightest in the darkness. So too did Hendrik have to first sink to the bottom before he knew which direction was up. Only once Hendrik had sunk deep enough into his well of misery was the sad song of his mourning heart interrupted by a soothing melody whispering on the wind. The softest notes slowly embraced him, sweeping over his shoulders and caressing his cheek, before pulling him back up from the darkness and into his green sanctuary. "You're here," Hendrik said, barely finding the energy to stifle the endless stream of sobs as he pushed himself up to his knees. He swiftly dried his weary eyes and looked around the clearing, feeling her voice and presence all around him. "You're still here, my love. Oh, the sorrow I felt when I thought I'd lost you too." The harmony that enveloped him slowly stitched his wounds with a golden thread named hope. The song on the wind dried his tear-stained hands and cheeks, wrapped him in a tight embrace, and seeped into his whole being. As Hendrik took a deep breath to vanquish the convulsions still running its fingers over his body, he felt his lungs fill with the sweet scent that was her. I feared that the greyness had taken over the whole world today, taken over my mind and my soul. I feared that they had stolen you away from me too. Like Myrtle, lovely old Myrtle, The pain of remembrance struck him like a dagger in the stomach, sapping Endrick of the little crumbs of energy he had only recently regained, making his lips quiver and struggle to find the right words once more. "Please, my love, take me away from here, I beg you. I can't stay here one more day. I have less than nothing to return to and everything to look forward to. If there ever was a time to leave, it is now. I'm ready." The soothing melody that was her softly whispered into his ear, plucked Endrick's heartstrings, ran its notes down his back, grabbed his hands, and with their sweet benevolence rolled the grey boulder off his chest, replacing it with dreams of gold and green. Endrick both froze in place and melted at the same time, wishing with all of his being that this moment of bliss would never end. Everything that once had been, the anger, the misery, the grey, was now swept away and replaced by her. "Wherever you go, I'll follow." Endrick closed his eyes and reclined against the rock by his side. "Take my hand now, and I'll never leave your side again. I can feel it. Yes, the grey has left me, and you are my saviour. My wounds are healing, stitched with the thread that is your love. My love." A warm wind pressed down upon him from all directions, ruffling his hair and caressing his whole being. That was when he knew it was time. With a smile on his lips, he breathed in deep, and in his mind he put his arms around her shoulders and leaned his cheek against the top of her head, the softest hair sticking to the drying river of eternal tears of sorrow. Embraced by a dreamlike wind, he felt the whole world disappear around him. Gone was the sorrow clawing at his heart. Gone were the shadows in his mind. Gone was the ground underneath him. There were only him and her, two entities of pure love conjoining into one. Together as one, they shot toward the sky, pierced the clouds, and danced so far away from the misery and agony that Endrick forgot there had ever been a color called grey.